The ancient mystery of dreams, a journey through time. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine you're floating through darkness, and suddenly you're flying over an endless ocean. The water below shimmers with impossible colors, and you realize you can breathe underwater. You dive beneath the surface, and the ocean transforms into a forest of crystal trees. This is the landscape of dreams, a realm humans have puzzled over since the very beginning of consciousness itself. Our story begins over 5,000 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia, where the earliest known records of dreams were etched into clay tablets. The people of this ancient civilization believed dreams were not random firings of a sleeping brain, but actual visits to another dimension, a place where the walls between our world and the divine grew thin. They kept these clay dream journals with the same reverence we might keep sacred texts today, carefully documenting every symbol, every vision, every mysterious visitation that occurred in the night. The Mesopotamians weren't alone in their fascination. In ancient Egypt, dreams held such profound importance that they built specialized temples called dream incubation chambers, where people would go specifically to receive divine messages through their dreams. Imagine traveling to a sacred temple, preparing yourself through ritual and prayer, and then sleeping in a holy space with the explicit purpose of receiving wisdom from the gods. The Egyptians believed certain dreams could predict the future, and they created one of the world's first dream dictionaries, a papyrus scroll that attempted to decode the meaning of common dream symbols. If you dreamed of seeing your face in a mirror, it meant a second wife. If you dreamed of your teeth falling out, it meant the death of a relative. These interpretations would echo through cultures for thousands of years to come. But perhaps no ancient civilization took dreams more seriously than the Greeks. Around 450 BCE, the Greeks established over 300 temples dedicated to Asclepius, the god of healing, where sick people would sleep in hopes of receiving a healing dream. They called this practice temple sleep or incubation, and it was considered legitimate medical treatment. Priests would prepare the patients, guide them through purification rituals, and then the patients would sleep in the temple's sacred chambers, waiting for Asclepius to appear in their dreams and either heal them directly or provide instructions for their cure. What's remarkable is that many people reported being cured through this dream therapy, suggesting that even thousands of years ago, humans understood there was a powerful connection between the mind in sleep and the body's ability to heal. The Greek philosopher Aristotle, one of history's greatest minds, became perhaps the first person to suggest that dreams weren't messages from gods at all, but rather products of our own minds. Writing around 350 BCE, he proposed that dreams were caused by sensory experiences during the day that somehow continued to echo in our minds during sleep. This was revolutionary thinking, the idea that we might be the authors of our own dreams, not passive recipients of divine messages. Aristotle noticed that dreams often incorporated elements from the previous day, what we now call day residue, and he theorized that dreams were the mind's way of processing these leftover sensory impressions. Yet even as some began to seek rational explanations, the mystical power of dreams continued to shape human history in profound ways. The Roman Emperor Augustus passed a law requiring citizens to report any dreams about the empire to the Senate, believing they could contain warnings about threats to Rome. Imagine living in a society where your private dreams became a matter of state security, where a troubling nightmare about the emperor could require official reporting. This tells us something fascinating. Ancient peoples didn't just believe dreams were meaningful. They believed dreams could literally change the course of nations. As centuries passed and Christianity spread across Europe, the interpretation of dreams shifted once again. Early Christians were warned to be cautious of dreams, as they might be deceptions sent by demons to lead believers astray. Yet simultaneously, the Bible was filled with divine dreams. Jacob's ladder reaching to heaven, Joseph interpreting Pharaoh's dreams of 7 fat cows and 7 lean cows. The medieval church found itself in a complicated relationship with dreams, suspicious of their pagan associations, yet unable to deny their biblical significance. By the Middle Ages, dreams had become categorized into types. Some were seen as messages from God, others as products of bodily humors and indigestion, and still others as demonic intrusions into the sleeping mind. What all of these ancient cultures shared, despite their different interpretations, was an absolute certainty that dreams mattered. They weren't dismissed as meaningless static or neurological noise. Whether viewed as portals to the divine, glimpses of the future, or windows into hidden chambers of the soul, dreams were treated as one of life's great mysteries, something that demanded attention, interpretation, and respect. And as we'll discover, modern science has revealed that the ancients weren't entirely wrong to take dreams so seriously, though perhaps for reasons they never could have imagined. As the Renaissance dawned and humanity began to question old certainties, dreams found themselves caught between two worlds, the mystical past and the scientific future. But it wasn't until the late 1800s that someone would attempt to truly catalog and understand the dream experience in a systematic way, pulling it from the realm of spirituality and superstition into the light of scientific inquiry. In 1861, a French researcher named Marie-Jean Léon d'Hervé de Saint-Denis published a remarkable book called Dreams and How to Guide Them. What made this work extraordinary wasn't just its scientific approach. It was that Saint Denis had kept a dream journal every single night for over 20 years, accumulating more than 1,946 detailed dream reports. Imagine the dedication, night after night, year after year, waking to capture the fading wisps of dream memory before they dissolved like morning mist. Through this meticulous process, Saint Denis discovered something that would captivate dream researchers for generations to come. He could teach himself to become conscious within his dreams, to recognize he was dreaming while the dream was still happening, and even to control elements of the dream world around him. He was documenting what we now call lucid dreaming, though that term wouldn't be coined for another half-century. But the person who would truly revolutionize how the Western world thought about dreams was an ambitious Viennese neurologist named Sigmund Freud. In 1899, though dated 1900 because Freud wanted his groundbreaking work associated with the new century, he published The Interpretation of Dreams, a book that would change psychology forever. Freud boldly declared that dreams were the royal road to the unconscious, a direct pathway into the hidden chambers of the human mind. Unlike the ancients who believed dreams came from external sources, gods, demons, or the cosmos, Freud argued that every dream was created entirely by the dreamer's own unconscious mind, filled with symbolic representations of repressed wishes, desires, and conflicts. According to Freud, nothing in a dream was random. Every image, every character, every bizarre scenario was a carefully disguised message from the unconscious, speaking in the language of symbols because the conscious mind would find the raw truth too disturbing to accept. Freud's theories became extraordinarily influential, shaping not just psychology, but art, literature, and popular culture throughout the 20th century. Yet even as Freud's ideas captivated the imagination of intellectuals worldwide, another psychologist would challenge his interpretations. Carl Jung, once Freud's protege and close colleague, broke away to develop his own theories about dreams in the 1920s and 1930s. Jung believed that while dreams did contain personal symbolism, they also tapped into something much larger, what he called the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of human experiences, myths, and symbols that existed across all cultures and throughout all time. When you dreamed of falling, or being chased, or discovering hidden rooms in a familiar house, Jung believed you weren't just accessing your personal memories, but connecting to archetypal experiences that humans had been dreaming about for thousands of years. These weren't just your dreams, they were humanity's dreams, echoing through you. While psychologists debated the meaning of dreams, other scientists became curious about the mechanics of sleep itself. What was actually happening in the body and brain during sleep? For most of human history, sleep was thought to be a passive state, a simple shutting down of consciousness like turning off a light. But in the 1920s, a German psychiatrist named Hans Berger invented the electroencephalogram, or EEG, a device that could record the electrical activity of the brain through electrodes placed on the scalp. When Berger measured the brains of sleeping people, he discovered something unexpected. The brain during sleep wasn't quiet at all. It showed distinct patterns of electrical activity, rhythmic waves that changed throughout the night. Sleep, it turned out, wasn't a single uniform state, but a journey through different landscapes of consciousness. The true breakthrough came on a September night in 1951. In a laboratory at the University of Chicago, a graduate student named Eugene Aserinsky was running an experiment that seemed routine, monitoring the sleep of his 8-year-old son, Armand, using an EEG machine. But as Aserinsky watched the traces being recorded on paper throughout the night, he noticed something that seemed impossible. At certain intervals, while his son was clearly deeply asleep, the machine showed bursts of rapid, jerky eye movements beneath the closed eyelids. The movements were so dramatic that Aserinsky initially thought the machine was malfunctioning, but the pattern repeated, appearing several times throughout the night in roughly 90-minute cycles. Aserinsky brought his findings to his advisor, Nathaniel Kleitman, and together they conducted more experiments. When they woke sleepers during these periods of rapid eye movement, an astounding 80% of them reported they had been dreaming, often with vivid, narrative-rich dreams. They had discovered RMS sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, the stage where most of our memorable dreams occur. This discovery, published in 1953, transformed sleep research from a quiet backwater of science into one of the most exciting frontiers of human biology. Suddenly, dreams had a physical correlate, a measurable state that could be studied in the laboratory. Scientists realized that REM sleep wasn't just a quirk, but a fundamental biological state that all humans experienced multiple times every night. Even more fascinating, researchers soon discovered that REM sleep appeared in virtually all mammals: cats, dogs, rats. Even whales and dolphins had periods where their eyes moved rapidly, and their brains showed the characteristic patterns of REM activity. Dreams, it seemed, weren't just a human phenomenon, but something deeply embedded in mammalian biology, suggesting they served some important evolutionary purpose. In the years following the discovery of REM sleep, researchers identified the complete architecture of sleep, the way we cycle through different stages throughout the night. They found that sleep follows a predictable pattern. We begin in light sleep, descend into deep, slow-wave sleep, where the brain shows large, rolling delta waves, then ascend back toward consciousness until we enter REM sleep, where the brain becomes nearly as active as when we're awake, but the body becomes temporarily paralyzed. This cycle repeats roughly every 90 minutes, and we typically experience 4 to 6 REM periods each night, with each period growing progressively longer. The first REM period might last only 5 or 10 minutes, but by the final cycle of the night, you might spend 30 or 40 minutes in REM sleep, experiencing long, complex, story-like dreams. What fascinated researchers was that the body seemed to have evolved a very specific mechanism to keep us safe during dreams. During REM sleep, signals from the brainstem temporarily paralyze the major muscle groups, a state called REM atonia. Your eyes can move, you can breathe, your heart beats on, but your arms and legs are essentially disconnected from your brain's motor commands. This paralysis prevents you from acting out your dreams, from running when you dream of running, or fighting when you dream of fighting. On rare occasions, this system malfunctions, leading to a condition called REM sleep behavior disorder, where people physically act out their dreams, sometimes with violent or dangerous results. The existence of this paralysis mechanism told scientists something profound. The brain during REM sleep is genuinely commanding the body to move, to act, to engage with the dream world as if it were real. Dreams aren't passive movies playing in the mind. They're embodied simulations that the brain treats, in many ways, as genuine experiences. As scientists peered deeper into the sleeping brain, they discovered that the landscape of dreams wasn't just shaped by psychology or philosophy. It was built from chemistry, from the ebb and flow of neurotransmitters that transformed the brain into something fundamentally different each night. In the 1960s and 70s, researchers began mapping the neurochemical changes that occurred during REM sleep, and what they found was extraordinary. The brain during REM sleep undergoes a dramatic chemical shift, almost as if it's being run on a different fuel. The neurotransmitter acetylcholine, which plays crucial roles in attention, learning, and memory, surges to levels even higher than during waking consciousness. Meanwhile, other neurotransmitters, norepinephrine, serotonin, and histamine, drop to nearly zero. These aren't subtle changes, they represent a complete neurochemical reorganization. It's as if the brain throws a switch, flooding certain systems with chemicals while shutting down others entirely. This unique chemical cocktail helps explain why dreams feel so different from waking thought. We're literally thinking with a differently balanced brain. One of the most intriguing discoveries was about the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logical reasoning, planning, and critical thinking. Essentially, the part that makes us question whether something makes sense. During REM sleep, brain imaging studies revealed that the prefrontal cortex becomes significantly less active, while emotional and visual centers of the brain light up with intense activity. This explains one of the most universal features of dreams, their bizarre logic. In a dream, you can be simultaneously at your childhood home and your current workplace. Your dead grandmother can be alive and also your third-grade teacher, and none of this strikes you as odd until you wake up. Your emotional brain is fully engaged. That's why dreams can feel so intensely frightening or joyful. But the critical thinking centers that would normally say, "Wait, this doesn't make sense," are essentially offline. You're experiencing the world without your inner skeptic, without the voice that questions contradictions. This chemical transformation also affects memory in fascinating ways. In 1967, researchers discovered something that explained why dreams are so notoriously difficult to remember during REM sleep. The brain's ability to form new long-term memories is significantly impaired. The hippocampus, your brain's memory recording center, is active during REM sleep, but functioning in an unusual mode. It's not efficiently transferring experiences into stable, long-term storage the way it does during waking life. This is why dreams evaporate so quickly upon waking. They were never properly encoded as memories in the first place. Unless you wake directly from a dream and immediately rehearse it, either by writing it down or consciously repeating it to yourself, the dream content often vanishes within minutes, leaving only a vague sense that you dreamed about something. Scientists estimate that we forget roughly 95% of our dreams within just 10 minutes of waking. But here's where it gets even more interesting. While the brain struggles to form new memories during REM sleep, it becomes highly active in replaying and processing old memories. Throughout the night, the sleeping brain appears to sort through the day's experiences, recent memories, and even distant memories from years past, pulling them up, combining them in novel ways, and potentially strengthening or modifying them. This led researchers to a profound realization in the 1990s and early 2000s. Dreams might not be meaningless noise at all, but rather a window into the brain's nightly work of memory consolidation and emotional processing. Studies began to show that REM sleep plays a crucial role in learning and memory. In one famous experiment from 1994, researchers taught people a complex visual task and then monitored their sleep. Those who got normal REM sleep showed significant improvement on the task the next day. But those who were deliberately woken every time they entered REM sleep showed no improvement at all, despite having slept the same total number of hours. The brain, it seemed, needed REM sleep and its accompanying dreams to lock in new learning. Even more fascinating, some participants reported dreaming about the task, and those who dreamed about it showed the greatest improvements. The brain was literally practicing during sleep, running simulations, strengthening neural connections. This led to what's called the threat simulation theory, proposed by Finnish psychologist Antti Revonsuo in 2000. Revensu noticed that across cultures and throughout history, a large percentage of dreams, perhaps 70% or more, involve some kind of threat, conflict, or challenge. We dream of being chased, of falling, of failing important tests, of confronting dangerous animals or hostile people. Revensu suggested that this wasn't coincidental, but evolutionary. Dreams might have evolved as a kind of virtual reality training system, allowing our ancestors to practice responding to threats in a safe environment. Every night, your brain generates simulations of challenging scenarios, letting you rehearse fight or flight responses, practice social conflicts, and prepare for dangers, all without actual risk. The person who dreamed regularly about evading predators might have had a survival advantage over someone who didn't, because they'd mentally rehearsed the escape countless times. The relationship between dreams and memory became even more intriguing with the discovery that different sleep stages process different types of memories. While REM sleep seems particularly important for emotional memories and procedural learning, like learning to play an instrument or master a new sport, the deep, slow-wave sleep that occurs earlier in the night appears crucial for consolidating factual memories and declarative knowledge. It's as if the brain has created a multi-stage memory processing system, with each stage of sleep contributing something unique to how we remember and integrate our experiences. Perhaps one of the most emotionally significant discoveries came from the work of Matthew Walker and his colleagues in the early 2000s. They found that REM sleep, particularly the dreaming that occurs during REM, appears to help process emotional trauma and strip away the painful emotional charge from difficult memories. During REM sleep, while the visual and emotional centers of the brain are highly active, the brain's stress chemistry, particularly norepinephrine, is switched off. This creates a unique state where you can replay emotional or traumatic experiences in the safe container of the dream, processing them without triggering the body's full stress response. Walker called this overnight therapy, suggesting that dreams allow us to remember the facts of what happened to us while gradually softening the emotional pain associated with those memories. This might explain why, as the old saying goes, time heals all wounds, or more accurately, why sleep and dreams gradually help us come to terms with loss, heartbreak, and trauma. But the chemistry of dreams revealed something else, something that millions of people experience but rarely understand. Researchers discovered that certain medications dramatically affect dreaming, particularly drugs that alter the balance of neurotransmitters in the brain. Antidepressants that increase serotonin levels often suppress REM sleep and reduce dream recall. Beta blockers, commonly prescribed for blood pressure and anxiety, block the neurotransmitter norepinephrine and can trigger intensely vivid, sometimes nightmarish dreams. Even alcohol, which many people use as a sleep aid, profoundly disrupts the natural sleep cycle. It might help you fall asleep initially, but it suppresses REM sleep during the first half of the night, then causes REM rebound effect later, leading to intense, disturbing dreams in the early morning hours. Understanding the chemistry of dreams meant understanding that what we put into our bodies, medications, alcohol, even caffeine late in the day, fundamentally changes the texture and content of our nightly journeys through consciousness. As dream research expanded across the globe in the latter half of the 20th century, scientists discovered something remarkable. Despite vast differences in culture, language, and daily life, human beings everywhere dream about strikingly similar things. It was as if beneath all our surface differences, we share a common dream vocabulary, a universal language of the sleeping mind. In the 1950s and 60s, anthropologists and psychologists began systematically collecting dreams from cultures around the world, from isolated tribal communities in the Amazon to industrialized societies in Japan, from nomadic peoples in Africa to farming communities in rural India. What emerged from these cross-cultural studies was both expected and surprising. Yes, the specific details of dreams varied with culture. An American might dream of driving a car, while someone from a pre-industrial society might dream of riding an animal. But the fundamental themes, the emotional content, the types of scenarios that played out during sleep, these showed extraordinary consistency across all human populations. Calvin Hall, one of the pioneering researchers in dream content analysis, collected and analyzed over 50,000 dream reports from people across different cultures, ages, and backgrounds beginning in the 1940s. From this massive database, he identified what he called the typical dreams, dream scenarios that appeared with remarkable frequency, regardless of who was doing the dreaming. These included dreams of falling, of being chased or attacked, of trying repeatedly to do something, of being inappropriately dressed or naked in public, of flying or floating through the air, of failing an examination, of teeth falling out, and of discovering new rooms in a familiar house. Hall found that these archetypal dream scenarios appeared in his samples from cultures that had no contact with each other, suggesting they arose from something fundamental about human psychology and the human experience, not from cultural transmission or learned beliefs about what dreams should contain. The consistency became even more striking when researchers looked at the emotional content of dreams. Across all cultures studied, negative emotions in dreams outnumber positive emotions by roughly 2 to 1. Fear, anxiety, confusion, and sadness are the most commonly reported dream emotions, while joy and excitement, though certainly present, occur less frequently. This negativity bias puzzled researchers initially. Why would the brain create experiences that feel bad? But it aligned with the threat simulation theory. If dreams evolve to help us practice dealing with challenges and dangers, then it makes sense that they would lean toward the difficult and uncomfortable rather than the pleasant and easy. Gender differences in dreaming also proved remarkably consistent across cultures. Studies spanning multiple decades and dozens of countries found that men's dreams tend to contain more male characters, more physical aggression, and more references to sexuality, while women's dreams include a more balanced ratio of male and female characters, more verbal confrontations, and more references to clothing and appearance. These patterns hold true whether the dreamers are from egalitarian societies or highly patriarchal ones, from wealthy nations or impoverished communities, suggesting they may reflect deep psychological differences rather than purely cultural conditioning. But perhaps the most universal dream of all is the nightmare. The word nightmare itself comes from Old English. Ma referred to a demonic figure that supposedly sat on sleepers' chests, suffocating them. In medieval folklore across Europe, this entity was blamed for bad dreams and sleep paralysis. But the experience the word describes exists in every culture humans have ever studied. Every society has a word for frightening dreams, and every culture develops explanations and rituals around them. The content of nightmares varies somewhat. People dream about the threats most relevant to their environment and era, but the experience of waking in terror from a threatening dream scenario is genuinely universal. Research suggests that somewhere between 50% to 85% of adults experience at least one nightmare per year, and for some people, they occur much more frequently. Children's nightmares proved particularly interesting to researchers. Studies in the 1980s and 90s revealed that nightmares are most common in childhood, peaking between ages 3 and 6, then gradually declining into adulthood. This makes evolutionary sense. Young children are most vulnerable to dangers and have the most to learn about navigating a threatening world. Their nightmares often feature monsters, animals, and being separated from parents, scenarios that, stripped of their fantastical elements, represent genuine survival threats for young humans throughout our evolutionary history. As children grow and their real-world competencies increase, their nightmares typically become less frequent and intense, as if the brain's threat simulation system recognizes it has accomplished its training purpose. One of the most fascinating cross-cultural findings emerged from studying the dreams of people living in extremely different environments. Researchers working with the Mehinaku people of Brazil, who live in the Amazon rainforest, found that their dreams featured many of the same universal themes, but with content drawn from their specific environment. Being chased by jaguars instead of dogs, navigating rivers instead of roads, conflicts with specific forest spirits that populated their mythology. A similar pattern appeared in studies of the Inuit peoples of the Arctic, Australian Aboriginal communities, and many other groups. The brain, it seemed, used whatever materials it had available, whatever animals, landscapes, social structures, and threats existed in the dreamer's actual life, to construct dreams around universal psychological themes. Dreams were like a theater production where the underlying script was universal, but each culture provided its own costumes, sets, and props. This realization led researchers to a deeper understanding. Dreams aren't arbitrary firings of neurons or random memory fragments. They're sophisticated simulations that the brain constructs using a combination of universal human concerns and personally relevant material from the dreamer's own life and culture. When a modern American dreams about missing a flight and a medieval peasant dreamed about missing the harvest, they're having fundamentally the same dream. A dream about failing to meet an important deadline with serious consequences, just dressed in the specific details available to each dreamer's brain. The universal nature of dreams also revealed itself in the phenomenon of recurring dreams. Surveys across multiple countries found that between 60% and 75% of adults report having had at least one dream that recurred multiple times, sometimes over years or even decades. These recurring dreams almost always involve some kind of unresolved threat, conflict, or challenge, being chased by something, being unprepared for an important event, trying to reach someone or somewhere, but facing constant obstacles. The specific content varies infinitely. Your recurring dream might be uniquely yours, But the underlying pattern of confronting persistent obstacles or threats shows up across humanity. Some researchers believe recurring dreams represent the brain's way of flagging unresolved psychological conflicts or persistent sources of stress in waking life, returning to the same simulation night after night until the underlying issue is somehow resolved. As the 20th century drew to a close, dream research had revealed something profound. Despite the incredible diversity of human experience, we all visit similar territories each night. We all face dream threats, experience dream emotions, navigate dream challenges. In our dreams, the boundaries that separate us by day, culture, language, nationality, time period, become less significant. We become, in a sense, more simply and universally human, sharing the ancient, common theater of the sleeping mind. Each night, you travel through stages and cycles, through dreams and deep rest, through a carefully orchestrated process that has been refined over millions of years of evolution. You don't have to understand it all. You don't have to control it. You just have to let it happen. Your mind knows what to do. It has been doing this your entire life. It will guide you through the stages, give you the dreams you need, provide the rest that will restore you. All you have to do is close your eyes and let yourself drift. Rest now. Your body is ready. Your mind is ready. Everything that needed to happen today has happened. Tomorrow will take care of itself. For now, there is only this moment, this breath, this gentle descent into sleep. Let yourself go. Let the darkness hold you. Let sleep come. You've done enough. You can rest now.